Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
It's a celebration, not even a parade, but it's the 11th season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and the one and only Susie Essman is returning. She has been there for 11 whole seasons. In between, she's done a zillion television things. She's written books. She's raised a house full of children, all unexpected. And Susie is up to 2 zillion things. Congratulations on everything. And you still have the foul mouth. You are the perfect wife. I know.
I haven't outgrown that.
No, but sometimes when you think like you're starting, the season is about, when is it? October 24th on HBO.
October 24th, yeah. You know, Joan, we've been doing this for 21 years.
Hard to believe, right?
It really is. I mean, what we've been through for the past 21 years, marriages, divorce, babies, grandkids, it's like, it's family.
Right. And a lot of the same people are still back there. And to think that it all started in a comedy club a zillion years ago. Larry David was doing stand-up, and so were you.
Yep.
Amazing, right?
That's where we met. And I remember we used to hang out at the bar at Catch a Rising Star because all the comics hung out. And Joy Behar, who is our mutual dearest friend, Joy and I would be standing at the bar, and Larry would just be telling us all his tales of woe of his dating life. And all of those stories told us became George Costanza storylines.
Unreal. And you described, which I loved because I love stand-up, and we used to go all the time. It was the biggest thing in New York. And Larry, you would describe, was so dangerous that the comics wouldn't leave even if they finished their bits because they wanted it right.
Because he knew something funny was going to happen when he was on stage. He was so volatile and so ready to just hate the audience for whatever they did. Everybody's laughing. One person's not laughing. That's who he zeroes in on and goes crazy on them. He was just so funny.
Right,
so funny. But I will say this. Back in those years in the 80s, if you would have said to any comedian hanging out at the bar, Larry's going to be richer and more famous than all of us put together, nobody would believe it.
No, because you would describe that he would come out and he'd look at the audience and he would shake his head and said, nah, no good.
I don't think so. And then he'd walk off.
He was unreal because he didn't care about
But
pleasing.
he had amazing, amazing material. He
wrote,
such funny material.
He wrote it.
Yeah. He was a great writer, which I think he's proved.
And then you kept up with Larry David? I'm talking to Susie Essman, who plays...
I didn't really keep up with him. He moved to L.A., of course, to do Seinfeld. And I didn't see him. I think I ran into him a couple times when he was in New York, but we weren't that kind of friends. We were very friendly, but not call each other kind of friends. And then he saw me in 1999. I did a Friars roast of Jerry Stiller.
Uh-huh.
I miss Jerry. I used to run into him all the time on the Upper West Side.
Loved him.
What a dear man. And also I miss Anne. Yeah, she was so funny.
I know, they were great. They were like my inspiration when I started out because they would do those Blue Nun wine commercials on the radio. Do you remember those? They were crazy.
I do.
Anyway, go ahead. So
Larry saw me on that roast, and it was like, light bulb. Oh, Susie, she's perfect for this part. So he called me up and gave me the part. But, I hadn't seen him in all those years. But that goes to my theory about careers and success, which is just keep showing up.
And it will happen.
Because that's what I did for the Friars all those years, that they would have all these benefits, and I had to prove myself because, all those old Starker comedians, they didn't think I was going to be funny because I was a girl.
Those old comics. I know,
yeah,
but
the Alan Kings, and I mean, especially if you're halfway decent looking, it's very confusing for them in those days.
but then when Larry David gave you Susie Green, was she developed yet, or
No,
did you have
no.
to find her?
He had one scene in mind in that first season where she's screaming and yelling at Jeff. Jeff brings a fresh air fund kid into the house to live with us, and the kid robs us blind. So he had that scene in mind where she's just cursing and screaming and yelling, and he wanted that kind of energy, which, I was perfectly capable of doing.
Right.
But beyond that, I've never gotten a direction from him, ever. We've never discussed the character. It just kind of developed. I just kind of made up this character I wanted to play, who was incredibly reactive. I mean, it doesn't analyze anything. Did you say this? She punches back. Whatever it is, she's completely secure in all of her feelings and opinions. The way she dresses, she thinks she's the greatest dresser in the world. So I kind of developed this character that's very unlike me because I question everything and analyze everything. I'm a comic.
Of course.
Because I thought it'd be fun to play.
And
I thought it'd be fun. Oh, this is funny, Joan. I had this idea of how I wanted her to dress, which is kind of like, how she dresses.
Right.
And our wardrobe designer at the time in season 1 was from the Midwest, and she said to me, well, where am I going to find clothes like that? And I said to her, the back room of Loman's, and she had never heard of Loman's.
Oh, no.
The now defunct. So we had to do a field trip. I had to take her to the back room of Loman's. She's like, I've never seen things like this. It's like, that's right.
And our mothers used to have favorite salespeople who worked at
Yes.
Loman's. My mother would get a call and say, guess what came in? And she would pack us all in the car with her girlfriends. They stopped playing Mahjong at that moment, and they would hit the hills for Loman's.
Yeah.
And I told you,
It was special.
Crazy. And my favorite Loman story was I go in the back room, and they had the rolling, carts where the clothes were hanging, and there was a dress that I really liked. So I take my clothes off, I try that dress on, and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm buying it. And as I'm walking out holding the dress, this tall, fairly elegant woman says to me, what are you doing with that? That's my dress. I said, how could it be your dress? She said,
Oh, she
she took it off to try on something. Connie Eisenstadt, I'll never forget it,
that's
from
hilarious.
California. She came all the way to Loman's, and I was buying her dress.
That's hilarious. You had to give it back to her, of course.
Of course I had to give it back to her. And
How disappointing.
and
You remember how, everyone had an opinion. You had the one big dressing room, open dressing room.
with all of
There
us
was
in
no,
it.
Exactly, and everybody had an opinion, strangers, on whatever you tried on. It was hilarious in
Right.
there.
And we ended up buying a whole lot of stuff. And I don't know about you, but then we would go over to Arthur Avenue and go to the market and get all that Italian food.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
shopping excursion be without food. So Susie Green was your real development. She was there, but she was sort of a skeleton when you first met her.
Yeah, I created her. And Larry and I, over the years, as I said, we've never discussed the character, but we're so in tune so that as seasons went on, he would get what I was doing and write more towards it, and I would get what he wanted and give him more. We just had what I always call a dialogue of the unconscious, and it developed. And this season, where we have more stuff together than ever this season, and there's a lot of quid pro quo going on. Like, you do this for me, and I'll do this for you, etc.
It's great. Well, I can't wait, and I've seen some of the little tips and advances that were up there, and it could not be funnier.
We have such great guest stars this season, Joan.
Oh, tell me, who have you got?
Okay, so Tracy Ullman, who is brilliant.
Love her.
Oh, my God, she's so funny. She's in the 4 episodes, I think, so she's got a run. She's got an arc. Let me think who else. Woody Harrelson, Bill Hader,
Wow.
Lucy Liu, Julie Bowen.
Oh, you've got big time.
Seth Rogen, Albert Brooks. I'm leaving people out.
No, but
Matt
it's
Walsh.
fantastic.
There's just so many great guest stars. And then other regulars are back. Vince Vaughn is back. Ted Danson is back. Richard Kind, your
He's
cousin
my
is back.
cousin
I
Richard.
know.
He's funny.
Oh, God, he's so funny. He's so talented.
No,
Do you know
Richard
that
is.
Richard and I met each other in 1980 in an acting class?
Wait, in New York or Chicago? New York.
Yeah, in New York.
Oh, my God. Well, it just shows you. And 20 years you did stand-up. And, if someone had said what's going to be, you in a million years probably couldn't have thought of this. Or even Larry David at that time.
If somebody said to me in 1983, this is where your life is going to end up when you were 66 years old, I would have said, give it to me. I'll take it.
And at what stage? I forgot when you met Jimmy, your now husband. How many years into Curb were you?
We started in 2000. I met Jimmy in 2003. So I don't remember which season. Probably 3. We have so long between seasons that I never remember.
And Jimmy,
but luckily,
he didn't
when
even
I
know.
met him, he didn't have HBO, so he had never seen me. Because it was a little difficult. People seeing Susie Green to get a date. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. And the stories of you, I still remember when I'd say, how's your social life, Susie? And you'd say, I'm nibbling. I'm snacking.
You're
snacking.
All those years when I was doing stand-up, it was so easy not to have a boyfriend or a husband because you have a built-in social life. You walk into any club, you know everybody there. You don't have to make any effort. You know all the comics, all the bartenders, all the waitresses, waiters,
You're
whatever.
Home.
You're home. It's your cheers, and working every Saturday night, working New Year's Eve, working all those date night things. I was always working,
which is a gift. But when you first started working on Curb, I still remember you were barely getting enough money to pay for an apartment rent.
Oh yeah, the first 5-6 seasons actually.
Well,
yeah,
because
but now we're good. Now I'm happy. Now we're good.
I hope so, because you make us all happy. And, I know it's my favorite show, but if you've never seen Curb, it's a real treat. And this Susie, plays another Susie who really isn't like her, but she is the foul-mouthed wife of Jeff, who is the manager, the agent of Larry David. And all fabulous characters, and all make you laugh. By the way, you were very funny on Colbert. You did a great job on that.
Thank you.
And it's not easy. Do you ever get anxiety when you
always,
have to do that?
Of course I get anxiety. I always get anxiety. People, one of the hardest things is, people are like, oh, just relax, be yourself. It's not so easy to just be yourself.
Yeah, like who is yourself? You got a lot of selves.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to be entertaining, and you want to be so.
Right.
He was pretty easy to talk to, so I enjoyed that. Most talk show hosts. Well, you do it. You're great. You've been doing this for how many years? You know how to talk to people.
It's different, though.
But you go on national television. There's always some self-consciousness and anxiety, of course.
And it's interesting because when I see my friends on national TV, I start getting this nervous feeling, which is ridiculous in the pit of my stomach. What are they going to do?
I do the same thing because you're worried that they're not going to be good enough.
Right.
That somehow they're just you just feel anxious for them.
And you and Joy are really funny people. I mean, the way you look at life and things, you have a funny outlook. But a lot of comics and stand-ups are really sort of depressives. They're not funny
true.
people.
That's true.
I often wonder how tough it is when you're doing a guest appearance, not you, but I mean others on major shows, how you have to get yourself up for it.
Well, you do. You have to. It's like getting on stage. You have to prepare, and you have to focus, and you have to get in. Before I would have to get on stage, when I used to do stand-up, I would have to put myself in a certain head. It's almost a self-hypnosis thing that you do, that you just put yourself in a place. Because believe me, I would not every time I had to go do stand-up was I in the mood. You're not always in the mood to be funny. So it's different when you're doing a show and you're acting with other people. But when you're doing stand-up, it's just all you, and the onus is completely on you. And it's hard, and it's a lot of stress.
No, like being vulnerable, being out there all alone. And if people don't laugh, oh my gosh,
Yeah. Much easier to be a musician, although you have to hit the notes. You got other people around you usually.
It's true, but you're not alone. And that's the difference. Stand-up is very isolating. And you've got to do it. And in the midst of all this, you suddenly acquired 4 children.
Yes. But they're all older now. Now I'm a grandma.
Now,
She's coming over today, my little girl.
Oh, that's hysterical. But the kids accepted you, right?
Yes. But yeah, listen, I'm not going to say it was all a day at the beach.
Right.
There were issues. But, I worked very hard at it. And it's not – the one thing that I always learned from the very beginning was that I could not compete with them. They had to come first.
That was
with Jimmy.
Smart.
Yeah, because I've watched other people have that problem, other friends of mine who are step-parents. And there's just a natural competition there, I think.
Right, especially girls.
Like what?
I said especially girls. Girls can
especially
be
girls,
very
which
tough.
I had 3. So I was very, very conscious. At a different time in my life, it probably wouldn't have worked out as well. But when I met them, I was 48. I had been through so much therapy. I had been through so much work on myself. And I think that it was the right time in my life to take that on. If I had been, 38, it might not have worked.
Yeah, but you sort of knew who you were, and it makes a whole difference. Susie, all the best to you. Season 11, October 24th, HBO Max. Curb Your Enthusiasm, and you will participate and say hello to the one and only Susie Green. We'll talk very soon.
Thanks, Joan.
Take care. Love to Jimmy. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WAVC.